Hey everyone, welcome to the Progressive Social Warriors. Okay, so we're gonna do something new on this YouTube channel. I want to see how progressive people are. This is your litmus test. Right here, right now. I'm putting a challenge out there. I have a video. I have a candidate that I'm promoting, Sarah Smith from the Justice Democrats, a progressive. I'm gonna do a series promoting every progressive candidate that I can find out there. Now I got Sarah Smith. I got bits and pieces of her doing an interview on Jimmy Dore and Humanist Report. I also got the links under the description if you want to watch the full interview of her on those channels. And I also got the link of Sarah Smith's website if you want to go there. This is your litmus test right now. I want to know how progressive people are. If you think that going around and complaining about the Democratic Party and down in Brazil and oh my god, it's so unfair, look what they do to us, no kidding, wake up and smell the coffee, no kidding, it's unfair. If you're spending 80% of your time complaining and 20% of your time helping, you're not a progressive in my opinion. That's my opinion. I'm done with complaining and I'm going to fight. So I want to ask you guys something right now. I want you guys to share this video. I want this video to get 500,000 views. There will be no monetization on this video. And moving forward, I will not monetize any of my videos. This is not about money or me making money. This is about the fight for democracy. Now, I got an unbelievable candidate that I'm about to show you. And if you really want to be in this fight, if you really want to be a progressive, you will share this. You want to talk about unapologetic progressives? You're looking at one right now. Because if people see Sarah Smith and her talk, there's no way that this candidate won't be voted into office. And there's no way that any progressive listening to her will not fall in love with her and all the other candidates that I'm going to bring forward. So this is it right now. Let me see. Let me see if we live in a bubble or if this progressive movement is the real deal. Because I really want to know. I want to know if this progressive movement is the real deal. I want this video to get 500,000 views. And the only way it's going to do that is if every single person that watches this shares this and tells other people to share it. That's it. That's the only way. And that's going to take you what? 2-3 minutes? If you don't have time for 2-3 minutes, you should have an hour time. But I'm not even asking for that. I'm asking for 2-3 minutes. If you don't have 2-3 minutes, I don't know what you're doing. You got to fight back. I know Sarah Smith is fighting. And I know there's a lot of great progressives fighting. Now, what are we going to do to help? This is it right here. This is your litmus test. Let me see. All you got to do, I'm not asking you to do nothing but share this video and get her name out there. How hard is that? You're going to tell me that you're going to go to sleep tonight? Put your head on your pillow knowing that you could have shared this video, that you could have taken 5 minutes of your time to share this video and maybe have someone get introduced to a candidate like this or have someone do something to help a candidate like this, and you didn't do that because of 5 or 10 minutes of your time? Really? And then you want to turn around and say, yeah, I'm a progressive? I don't know what you call a progressive, but that's not what I call a progressive. I don't call a progressive going around and complaining about everything a progressive. And don't get me wrong, you can complain and show corruption. I'm not saying not to do that, but if that's all you're doing, then you're lost. And that's straight up. And it's tough love moving forward on this channel. That's the way it's going to be moving forward. And after you watch Sarah Smith, there's no way, if you're a progressive, that you won't love her. No way in hell. You're either in this fight or you're not in this fight. Because the only way to create change is for me and you and everyone out there watching this to share and help these candidates get their name out there. And share this on your own. Share this on Twitter. Share this on Facebook. Share this on Reddit. Share it on wherever you can share it. You can take 5-10 minutes of your time. If you're a truly progressive, you can do that. Anyways, this is Sarah Smith. She's an amazing, amazing candidate. You guys will love her. And you guys will definitely support her.
Hi, everybody. We have a brand new progressive, non-corporate Democrat running for Congress in Washington's 9th district. She's got a great resume. She's young, but she's done a lot of things. I'm going to tell you, she is a community activist. She's worked as a Planned Parenthood defender. She's done lots of things. She's going to tell us all about herself. It's the new Justice Democrat, Sarah Smith. Hi, Sarah. How are you? You were working for Citibank or Citigroup at the height of the foreclosure crisis, and your job was to try to help mitigate the pain that some of the homeowners were going through. And were you successful in doing that? Did Citigroup really have an interest in doing that? Were you just for show?
So sometimes I felt like I was, and I felt like we could have been doing more, but that didn't stop me from trying to do everything I possibly could. So I, as an individual, I believed in what I was trying to do, regardless of what banner under which I was trying to get it done. And the particular story that comes to mind is I actually was working on helping this woman. She was a single mother of 3, and she was a nurse, and she was working. She'd just gotten back into the working world after her divorce from her husband. She told me her whole life story, and her mortgage payment became too much for her to bear. She lost her job. Even as a nurse, she was unemployed, and she didn't know what to do. She had 3 kids. She was the sole income provider, and to me, she was scraping by doing some side work and things like that, but she wasn't taking home a real salary. And I was hit really hard by her circumstance. And when I plugged everything into the tool we were using, it kept denying her for this repayment plan, but I knew she met the parameters. So we're not supposed to do this at the time, but I told her I would give her a call back, and so I disconnected my phone. I actually ended up calling directly to the Fannie Mae representative that coordinated with Citigroup at the time, and I had the representative actually come out to our site and put her information in and do a manual override, because he agreed with me. He didn't know what was going on, but the tool errored out, and she should have qualified and never did. So he was actually able to override it and get her into the program, and they let me call her back and be the one to tell her. And I remember it was like a 3-day process, and she said she started to cry on the phone about how she was waiting with bated breath and how she was just so grateful that someone actually went the extra mile. And it hit me so hard that I tried to make sure for the rest of my working life I'm always going the extra mile, because I never know what person I'm going to interact with next that's going to get hit hard by something and need someone just to care a little bit more. And that's really important to me as a person. It's important to me in how I work. It's important in how I approach the world. But that's how I want to approach this kind of legislation, is how is this going to affect the nurse with 3 kids who's a single mom? How is this going to affect those working people in the end?
There is no way they're going to allow you to be in Congress.
I'm hoping so.
They are going to fight you tooth and nail, and they're going to smear you. Look, I'm just personally interested. So when you were working for Citigroup, they do pay well. How was it that you were able to walk away from them?
I was in Arizona at the time. I was making about $10 an hour. And then I had an opportunity to work as a paralegal when I was trying to get my paralegal certification for a bankruptcy firm. And so then I shifted over to working in bankruptcy because I kept my resume just really sad. And then after that, I went to bodily injury negotiation for an insurance company. And then I took a break from that because I realized I wasn't happy in those fields and I needed to do something better. And I wanted to do better. I wanted to do something that had a positive and meaningful impact on people. So I took a job at a small business. I love helping out a local business owner. I love being a part of that environment. And then the opportunity arose to run for Congress. And I figured what better way to help people than to the ultimate ask, right?
Yes. All right. Well, Sarah Smith, she's running in Washington's 9th district. She's a real progressive. Her policies are exactly the kind of policies I'm in favor of, okay? So, again, I don't care. She's for getting corporate money out of politics, so I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If you're for that, that's great. Thanks for primarying a corporate Democrat, because that takes courage to do.
Hey, everyone. So I am here with Sarah Smith, running to represent Washington's 9th district, and she is part of brand new Congress. So I'm here with her. She's going to talk about her campaign. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, hey, I appreciate what you're doing. You are running a campaign based exclusively on grassroots donations, zero corporate dollars, no super PAC. So at this point, it's safe to say that that's a really difficult thing to do in this day and age when money drives politics. So what made you want to run a grassroots campaign with brand new Congress as opposed to basically just taking the easy way out and taking lots of corporate money?
Because, I guess the famous saying is the easy thing and the right thing and the easy thing aren't always the same. So I've grown up pretty much since the crash happened, since Wall Street got away with taking trillions of dollars ultimately from individual people. I've grown up in a generation that's suspicious of money in politics anyway. But now that I've gotten older and we've seen it come out more and more and more, and we've seen the effects that major contributions that super PACs can have on candidates' votes and on incumbents' votes, I just don't. That's messy for me. I don't want to represent businesses. I want to represent people. So why would I take money from businesses if I want to represent people?
Now, one thing that I always ask to people running for Congress is there is a bill in Congress, Representative John Conyers, HR 676. So if you're elected, would you co-sponsor that?
Absolutely. So I've told the story about my dad a lot. My dad is an older gentleman. He's part of the greatest generation. He survived the Nazi V2 bombings that leveled London. He worked 4 jobs. He put himself through college. He came from nothing. And I learned more about his story very recently. My dad's story is long and storied itself. But so he worked 4 jobs. He left England. He came here with almost nothing. And he started to try and build this life for us. And he did, and he seized it. And then Wall Street crash happened, and it took everything. It pushed us to sell our house. It pushed me to go live on my own at 17. It was a really hard time, but he survived it. He made it through. He pulled through, and now my family is fine and happy. He survived all of that, and he was hospitalized and almost died after all of that because he stepped on a stinging nettle when he was gardening. And it was actually Medicare that saved my dad's life. It was my dad had access to Medicare. He was able to go to the hospital. My parents walked out with no medical debt, and medical bankruptcy is the #1 reason for bankruptcy in this country. So my family was terrified that we were going to be staring down the brink of this, but then Medicare kicked in and we walked out. My parents were able to push through it. And it just seems crazy to me that we have a system right now that thinks people choose to get sick, that people have any kind of agency in that. So absolutely, I would support HR 676 Medicare for all, and not 13 years after it was introduced. I would support it from day one.
That's a great distinction to make. The difference between your campaign and campaigns of corporate Democrats, if you will, is that they never talk to constituents, and I don't know how you can represent a district if you're not in that district. So it's really strange to me. I don't know if you heard about the article from Politico, to where Democrats were actually holding meetings on how to talk to people. And if you have to have a meeting on how to talk to people, or maybe it was a seminar, then I think you're a little bit out of touch. Now, another really important thing that I want to touch on is net neutrality, because you're already at a disadvantage because you're not taking corporate money. But with your types of campaign, you know, and it goes for Stephen Jaffe, you know, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, without the internet, I think that your guys' campaigns would be really, really much more disadvantaged, pretty much. So do you have anything to say about net neutrality and what you could possibly do to fight for it in Congress?
Net neutrality is so important. Maintaining a neutral space on the internet is something that I absolutely intend to advocate for. I grew up a child of the internet. When I was very young, the internet started to become a big thing. I remember our first Macintosh computer coming into the house, and I remember AOL back when
Me too.
It was first cool.
Yeah.
So as a child of the internet, I recognize the benefits, and I've seen the improvements we've made because of free access to it. And the way that I look at net neutrality is I actually look at it as an issue of free speech. So the internet is now, it's the digital free speech platform. It's kind of like how college campuses all have this free speech area. This is like such a general free speech area. The internet needs to remain open because it's an open trade of information. It's an open trade of conversation. It's an open sharing and responding to ideas. This is a free speech problem. This isn't a problem of internet companies. This isn't a problem of utilities. This is a problem of people having access to information and the access to respond to that information in kind. So this is something that I would definitely treat as more in line with the First Amendment than anything else.
I agree with that 100%.
Campaigns like this one, campaigns like Alexandria's, like Paula Jean's, I think all of our campaigns would face the potential that we could suffer, and we'd struggle more under this chokehold that the two-party system already has, because right now we have this dichotomy of two parties, and lack of net neutrality is just going to exacerbate that problem.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I could totally see that. Now, one thing that I wanted to ask you about is, even though you're running as a Democrat, it seems as though the ideas that you're espousing aren't necessarily in line with the aggregate party. So my question is, what would you do if you were elected to kind of help break up that two-party duopoly, or at least move towards opening up our democracy? I mean, would you support something like ranked choice voting or proportional representation, even if that might, put up a barrier to you getting reelected if you were to win?
So the big thing is, especially in my mind, is it's not about me, right? It's not about my being reelected. It's about what's best for our country and what's going to help other people have the opportunity. So I've got this unique chance to step up and challenge an incumbent and run this campaign, I want to make sure that if the times change and representation wants to change and people want someone new, that they have that ability to challenge me and take over that seat. I am very much in favor of ranked choice voting. I think this chokehold that we've got has become this snowball effect. We've got this two-party chokehold. We've got money in politics. We've got special interest lobbyists. We have things like, pharmaceutical companies spending so much more money on lobbying than they are on actually researching. And it's just become this packed house of cards that has to come down at some point in time. And I think ranked choice voting would do a lot for people. I think it would let people reach across party lines more easily. It would let people express, if someone said, I really want, John Doe to be president, and my second choice would be Dan Smith. And then someone else said, no, absolutely not. This other random person like Leroy Jenkins would be my number one pick, but we both agree that, Dan Smith would be the second best person. It's a way to bridge the gap. It's a way for people to be able to express opinions better. It removes that vice grip on our politics, and it allows things like third parties to be an actual viable option, which I think is really important. We need to be able to choose realistically beyond just Republican and Democrat. And people always talk about this healing and this divide and reaching across the aisle. And one of the ways we can do that is by having more options between all of us for who we want to run our country.
Yep. So why are you better than your incumbent? What are some policies that your opponent is supporting that you think he shouldn't be supporting?
So I've answered this question a lot. If you think that the Democratic Party hasn't done anything wrong, and you think that losing 1,000 seats nationwide since 2008 is fine, and they shouldn't change anything about what they're doing or what they stand for, then by all means, Adam Smith is your guy. He is as establishment as they come. He's categorized as a rank and file Democrat, and he spent 21 years being a moderate Democrat, a self-described moderate. He's in the New Democrats coalition with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. He voted in favor of the Iraq War. He voted for the Patriot Act. He voted to reinstate the Patriot Act. But then he recanted that vote because he misunderstood the same bill that was introduced to him a second time, I guess. But
of course,
so, yeah, so much going on. But if you are happy with the establishment, then by all means, vote for him. But if you want a representative that's going to actually fight for things like Medicare for All, like HR 676, if you want a representative that recognizes that we have bigger problems than inflating the military budget, we need to invest in infrastructure. If you want a representative that recognizes that free college is the way that we're going to help curb this looming student debt crisis, that recognizes that the student debt crisis is an impending disaster for the economy, then vote for me. Because it's not going to take me 13 years to suddenly turn around a week ago and claim that I'm a progressive. It's not going to take me 21 years to step up to the plate and fight for students. It's not going to take me 21 years. It's going to take me one day to step in there and let it be known exactly what I stand for. I plan to fight for people. I plan to fight for actual working people, and not tacitly, not passively co-signing things, not trying to ride other progressive party members' coattails, but because it's what I believe in. But because fighting is in my blood, it's what I do. Fighting for the little guy, being present, being somebody that actually recognizes what people need, not corporations, not an overinflated DoD budget, but what actual people need in order to survive and be successful. And not just survive, but thrive, right? That's what our goal is. That's the American dream. And that's what I want to do from day one, not 21 years later. My top 3 issues would be, off the bat, Medicare for All, universal health care, single payer system, push for single payer,
awesome.
Push for Medicare for all, remove college debt, because that's an unspoken bubble. It only becomes a big issue when election times happen, right? So when elections are going on, suddenly it's all the buzz, but then after they're done, no one talks about it. And I'm dealing with student debt right now. I want to see relief not in 20 years after the bubble's already burst, but now. So that's my second thing that I'd fight for. And the third thing that I'd fight for is I fight for investment in green energy. building up this green energy economy is going to create lasting jobs for people. It's going to create manufacturing jobs actually here in the States. So we won't just be assembling things, we're going to be building things. It's going to be able to bridge this gap that we're experiencing already, this people working 2 to 3 jobs just to make ends meet, because we can provide them with good paying jobs. And you couple that with not having to worry about medical expenses, and finally being able to be free from college debt, that's going to be a huge boon to the economy. So if I had to pick 3 things, those are the 3 things that I would chase with fire and fervor.
What can people do to support you? Because of course, you know, sending money is always one thing. So if you could let us know where we can do that, but also what else we can do to really try to help you be successful.
So donations are a huge thing right now for me, especially because, like you said, grassroots is very hard. It really is the hard way, but I have to say that every donation that comes in, I know how important those dollars are to people because they're important to me. I just left work a couple of hours ago, so I know how hard people work for their money because I work hard for mine. And so those donations that come in are so much more meaningful to me than just taking blind dollars from corporations. And if you go to votesarahsmith.com/donate, that's where you can donate directly to my campaign. I'm also looking for canvassing team leads. So we're already out in the field, we're already giving out literature, we're already knocking on doors, which is very exciting. We're getting started very early.
That's great.
And if I can get more people to donate, votesarahsmith.com, there's a sign up button and you can click on that and you can let me know if you want to volunteer. I have some canvassing events coming up. My next one is on September 2nd in Bellevue. There's a progressive women's potluck that I'm putting on at the house of one of my amazing volunteers. So you can RSVP on votesarahsmith.com for that too. But those are probably going to be the biggest areas that I need help. I need some canvassing team leads, and I always need donations.
Right, and I want to say the same thing that I say for other interviews as well. I know that we sound like broken records on here, but this is really, if you don't want corporate money in campaigns, then you've got to pitch in, and even $1. It sounds like it's not very much, but if a lot of people each send $1, then that can really go a long way.